Hey Ghoul friends, it's me, Adrian, or Ayden. Either way, I am still your host, and you are still listening to Susto, the podcast of ooky, spooky, scary stories centered on Latin American Hispanic cultures. Ghoul friends, thank you so much for being here. Not only are you listening, but if you are a Patreon subscriber, then you can also be watching this. I'm doing this two ways this time. I am making this video, this episode, accessible to anyone who is a paid Patreon subscriber, regardless of which tier you are on, but best Ghoul friends are still only getting the bonus content for this episode. It's just something I'm trying out. I don't know if it'll stick. We'll see what happens. I'll see what the feedback is. Let me know what you think. But if you are not a Patreon subscriber, then you are listening to this episode coming to you from the other side, all the way onto your podcast platform. Thank you for being here. Long story short, I really appreciate it. Let me tell you all really quick. I don't have that many updates. All I'm going to say is that this month, as expected, and I will always say I appreciate it, I welcome it, I encourage it, I want more of it. But I am that video of Gaga going bus, club, plane, club, another club, no sleep. That's literally me this month. And I am so excited about it. I am very tired, but I'm very excited. And so again, if you have not seen that post on social media, I'm going to post another one probably after recording this. So the day before it comes out, you'll see it. When you see it, you'll know that that was tonight. Anyway, with all of my events, and I'm going to put all the flyers in there as well with all of the details. I'm so excited to be doing all of these events. I'm so excited to see all of you there. If you have any questions about them, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And I hope that you've been having a wonderful spooky season so far. I know we're still in the first beginnings of this month, but I feel like once it gets kicking, it's gonna go by fast. So anyway, I hope y'all are having a good time. Let me know what you're dressing up as for Halloween. I'm just so happy it's October and everyone's finally on the same page. If you don't have plans and if it's between one of my events, I also posted the Susto's 31 Nights of Frights on all social media. So let me know what you think of that as well. Feel free to toss in what movies you would have had on there and let me know if you're going to watch any of those this month. Okay, I know I said not too many updates, so we will keep it short. Housekeeping kinds of things. The easiest way to support Susto is by engaging with the show wherever you are listening. So that means leaving 5-star ratings and reviews, by leaving comments, by sending me your stories for a Letters from the Beyond episode. You already know how to do that. Social media DMs, email, the website, putting Tears of a Fairy in a crystal glass. It has to be crystal, and then swirling it 3 times clockwise and 4 times counterclockwise and throwing it over your shoulder while saying your story. I will hear it in my sleep. With all of that being said, we have another special guest this episode. I'm very excited to speak to this person. I'm very excited for you to hear from this person. They will be introducing themselves once more in a minute here, but without further ado, please welcome screenwriter and film director Miguel Martinez.
Hey, what's up? I'm Charlie.
And I'm Tyler.
And we are Believing the Bizarre,
a paranormal podcast that dives into the unknown and the unusual every Tuesday.
We discuss hauntings, cryptids, aliens, UFO encounters, conspiracies, and more.
And we break down whether or not we find them believable.
All right, listen, if you're not paying for electricity, you're not paying for dinner.
Saw a terrifying looking face pressed to the window with gaping eyes.
Almost reached it when the laughter stopped suddenly, and a sound behind me made me turn around.
Sorry, I was gonna do it, but then I had SpaceX.
So we got you covered, whether you like horror or laughs, or both. We actually really hope it's both.
With over 3 million downloads, you'll be joining a bizarro community that we promise is more than just Mothman and our parents.
We even take creepy stories from our listeners and turn them into episodes.
Check out Believing the Bizarre on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Believing the Bizarre, a podcast as bizarre as you are.
Hello, Ghoul friends. Today we have a very special guest all the way from the world of film and creation, Miguel Martinez, writer and director of Lechuza. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to get right into it. For those of you who have not heard or seen, and I will of course let you explain a bit more about it. Miguel, you wrote a short horror film called Lechuza. Before we dive into that, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are and the work that you do?
Sure. My name is Miguel Martinez. Um, I'm a filmmaker who loves horror movies, and so that's kind of what I lean towards. I first was a screenwriter, and then I decided, hey, I want to get some of these things actually made, and right now nobody's making anything really, so I want to be the one to do it. So I started leaning more into filmmaking, learning more about that. Most of the schooling I did, and most of the things that I looked into was filmmaking, when it was screenwriting, and so I kind of had to start from the ground up a little bit with filmmaking and stuff like that. When I was in college, I worked a bit on some of Robert Rodriguez's film company, so that was really fun. I worked on the From Dusk Till Dawn TV show, so that's kind of how I got my start in the industry a little
Wow.
bit. But yeah, like I'm pretty easy to get along with, I think, and I have a lot of different avenues. I don't put all of my eggs in one basket. I write comics. I have some books that I self distributed, and I'm actually publishing a poetry book at the end of the year. So that's something to look forward to. Stuff like that.
That's so exciting. I love that you mentioned the idea of like you kind of weren't seeing enough of the work done or done in a way that you would do it. And so you just kind of
Yeah.
said, I'll do it myself. In several interviews, I've had people ask me about my start with Susto and how that happened. And I had pretty much the same answer was I was looking for this kind of content and I had a clear vision of what I wanted it to be like. And I couldn't find it. So I said, I'll do it myself. So I very much understand that, and I love that kind of like drive and passion for something to kind of just build something from the ground up, right? Um,
Definitely.
what initially drew you to filmmaking, or I guess, like you said, to screenwriting?
Yeah. I've always been into film, but I think it was only specifically when I started getting into horror that I was like, oh, this is something that I want to do, and this is
Mhm.
something I feel like can do, and like when I was younger, I obviously loved movies, and I loved animated movies, and I loved The Lion King and all that stuff. But I saw this poster once when I was young, and it was a poster to The Nightmare on Elm Street,
Mm.
and it was the poster you see everywhere where it's like Freddy. It's a painting of Freddy like above the bed,
Mhm.
and yeah, and like that whole thing. And I was like, what is this? And I wanted to watch it, but for some reason, my parents weren't always like this. But for some reason, my mom was like, no, you can't watch that movie. It's the devil. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I think because she saw Freddy's, like, his face burned face somewhere, and she's like, no. And so she's like, you can't watch it. And I could watch them. I watched like a bunch of horror. I watched like The Thing, but for some reason, that was the one movie that my mom was like, you can't watch it. So I went. I was like 8, I think. I went to
Mhm.
school, and my friend was like, "Oh, I don't have the DVD, but I have this," and it was the soundtrack to the movie.
Oh wow.
And he gave it. He like lent it to me, and I like took it home, and I put it in my little CD player, and I like hid in the corner at night, like listening to the soundtrack to Nightmare on Elm Street,
Oh my god.
which like when you're and imagining what the movie would be like, which I think is infinitely worse than what the movie is actually like.
Yeah.
But I was so like enamored with this like otherworldly thing, and I finally saw the movie and I loved it. And I think it's a perfect movie. The first Nightmare on Elm Street movie is a perfect horror movie. Um, and then after that, I just sort of kept being enamored. But it was always this sort of like thing in the distance. It was always this like thing to admire from a distance. And like movies like Spielberg movies are like perfectly chiseled Greek statues,
Mm.
and like horror movies are like this really really other like spiritual thing that you experience. For me, I think it was only when I went to go watch Pan's Labyrinth with my dad after my grandmother had passed away,
Mhm.
and it was like the first thing we did like the day after, um, and it was I watched it, and when it ended, for some reason, maybe I was just old enough to have this thought, but I had the thought of, oh, somebody made this movie, and they had a great time doing it, and this is like somebody's job. Somebody made this, and it was the first time that I registered that as like a child.
Yeah.
And so I think since that moment on, I was like, oh, I want to do that. Whatever that is, I want to do it.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I think that's such a really cool, I guess, moment to have that realization. Like, this is not only something that people do, like, obviously for the love of it, but it's a career path for many people. Yeah, that's really cool. Pan's Labyrinth is also, that's actually, it's on my, I just posted that today. It's on my 31 Nights of Fright Susto movie guide for the month of October, because that one, I mean, it's one of those where I can rewatch it like countless times, and it's such a, like, I mean, of course, Guillermo del Toro, like how could you not, right? That's a great film, great choice for inspiration for sure. So speaking of great films, can you tell us about your new horror short, Lechuza?
Yeah, well, Lechuza is a proof of concept short, meaning I have the feature film, and I wrote the feature film, and then I had producers who were like, hey, maybe you should turn this into a short, and you can kind of prove that you can make this. And prove that you can make it for cheap, and prove that you can have like the visual knowledge or the visual language to tell the story. And so it went through a lot of iterations. But first, I'm just gonna say that so Lechuza is a folk tale from Latin America. It takes on a whole lot of different forms. It's about different things. But my story is about this group of sisters on the night of their mother's funeral. So it's after their mother had passed away, and one of the sisters gathers the others to try to resurrect their matriarch. And the Lechuza punishes them for their abuse of magic, essentially. And that's sort of the context that I wanted to say to take this in. The Lechuza from Latin American folklore, she does a lot of things, but her sort of origin is that she was unjustly punished for being a witch. And then so as she was burning, essentially, she made a deal with the devil to come back for revenge, and the devil returned her as this owl creature, this like half woman, half owl creature, and it was just something that I never saw. Again, that thing of like it's missing, and every time you talk about like Latino folklore, everyone talks about La Llorona, and I love La Llorona, but this was always like a thing that I was like, yeah, but there's this, and there's this thing that my dad told me this story about. He lived on a ranch, and they saw this thing, and no one ever knew what I was talking about. So I wanted to sort of try to bring it into like the visual medium, and specifically have it in English too, which would be nice. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that too, how like in a moment like that, and the sisters in Lechuza, after losing their mother, I can see how that would be a moment of desperation for someone, and the idea of doing anything, to have her back, to have a lost loved one return to you. And so, and again, I've told the story of Lechuzas, and there, like with so many of these stories, right, there are so many different versions of it, and so there's definitely I think one of the more popular, like the, I guess, quote, accepted version is the story of a witch who was unjustly or wrongly executed for practicing brujeria. And then other people believe that not any, but there are multiple lechuzas out there. So there are witches who can transform into owls, and they are known, they are lechuzas. It's a type of witch, right? So I guess with the idea of that, of desperation, wanting to bring back a loved one, and the use of magic and the abuse of magic, as you said, do you think that specifically drew you to use La Lechuza in this movie, compared to, like you mentioned, La Llorona or any other sort of like legendary spirit or cryptid that we hear about?
Yeah, I was very much drawn to the visceral image of it, and just the way that it is described in like accounts people who've seen it, or people who like heard it, or there's this very much like a physical thing that I'm drawn to more than other folklore from Latin America, I think. But like this story of like abusing magic, and the story of wanting to bring a loved one back, and it's something that I was very much drawn to. And like back in 2013, I lost my mother, and I was very much drawn to that the idea of resurrection and people writing about it, and what they're actually trying to say, what all these resurrection stories like Frankenstein or stuff like that, what they're trying to say. And I had something to say about a resurrection story and about something like that. And so that's what the feature, going back to like writing the feature, that's what the feature is about. And then when I started writing the short, it went through a bunch of different stages, because like right before shooting, I realized that the messages that didn't get through. What I had to say wasn't being said in the short. And what I always tell my collaborators is like, if we don't make anything else, or if we don't make, like, let's say you make the proof of concept, if you don't make the feature, this has to stand on its own, because it's the only thing you ever made. Like, if you don't make anything else, are you saying all you need to say? And so for the short, like basically like the night before we started filming, I wrote if you've seen the short, there's like a bookends of it. So what the short is, it's like you see the mother pass. One of the daughters sees the mother pass away, and she starts to sort of cry, and she starts to sort of grieve, and then she swallows it up, and then she's like, I have an idea. And then you see her idea, and the sister's trying to stop her, and then what happens when she tries to resurrect the matriarch, and she keeps sort of coming back to this room that her mother passed away in. And then at the end, she comes back to it, and she's faced with the realization of like, okay, I need to accept this. I need to like cry, or I need to grieve. I need to do this. I can't start taking these other pathways to make this happen. And that's sort of like what drew me into like this idea of using the Lechuza that way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even always called the Lechuza. Sometimes it was just about brujas. And then I realized that we needed like this anchor of a metaphor. And Lechuza turned into that anchor.
Yeah. And you had mentioned also that it's such a good, like a visceral kind of image. And the image that you all have, or like the makeup that you all had for the Lechuza, shout out to your makeup and your effects person, because it looks so cool. And on the cover, or the poster, I guess you could say, for Lechuza as well, it looks so cool. I'll probably post that on social media for this episode, and I'll throw that up here for Best School Friends on Patreon. But it looks so good, so creepy.
I have a crazy story about that. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, please.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
So I knew what I wanted it to look like, and like it took me so long into the production of this to tell my dad I was doing it, because I thought he was going to say, don't do that. I thought he was going to be like, don't fuck around with it, like, you know. Oh, I don't know if I can cuss here.
Yeah.
But okay, I don't know if he was going to say, hey, don't fuck around with this, because he that's where I learned it from. He told me stories of like the Lechuza visiting his home and trying to steal his baby brother.
Oh my god.
And the dad having to fight it off with like a shotgun.
Oh my god.
And like his dad had my grandfather has a cross with like a knife attached to it. And so like him like blessing the cross and like doing that, and like the Lechuza like landing on his head and like getting cut on the cross. And like trying to pick him up, and then stabbing it essentially.
Are they? Is your family Catholic?
Yeah.
That is some Catholic shit if I ever heard it. The knife on the crucifix. And it's also just something about the Catholic aesthetics. I just imagine it, and I know it looked cool as hell. So, okay, go on. So
it's crazy. And I think they use it when they, I think I've seen it when they raise the baby Jesus, like in Christmas. They like use that for something. And I think I've seen what it looks like.
Okay.
But yeah, so I had those stories. I know about. I've always known about the Lechuza, and I told my dad, and he like went quiet for a little bit, and then he's like, "What is it about?" And I told him, and he liked it.
Nice.
So he's like, "Okay," but what was I going to say? Oh, so I did a lot of research. Obviously, I talked to a lot of like folklore scholars. I really wanted to get like the look down, and I knew what I wanted, and my dad explained it to me too a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but when you go, if you search it like on Google or YouTube or something, there's this image that keeps popping up on the YouTube thumbnails. It is the exact same photograph. It's the exact same image. It's just like the person who took the image off of Google for a thumbnail, they made it black and white, or they put some kind of filter over it to use it as their thumbnail, or some kind of effect over it. But it's the same image, and you can tell. It's very easy to see. And so after like the 20th time searching up Lechuza on YouTube, I was like, what's this image? And I went on Google, and I used like the time machine thing, and I used like you can like see where people talk about what thing went on Google. I forgot what that's called.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I know, I think it's this image, but I'm not sure. And I tracked down the image to a DeviantArt account of somebody who was in special effects school in like 2008, and they held the mask up and they said, hey, this is my senior project. And it's that exact picture. Someone cropped it and then used it in like a YouTube thumbnail, and now everyone uses it in their YouTube thumbnails when they talk about Lechuza. And I was like, who is this person? And they're like, it's a DeviantArt account. It hasn't been active for like 10 years or something. Or 20 years, like almost 20 years. Like 15 years or something. And I was like, who is this? And I couldn't find it. And I was searching like all their usernames, and I was searching everything. And I was searching their graduating class.
Oh, wow.
And then out of nowhere, I find this person who has like half of the username. And I'm like, who is this? And I looked them up. It's like an abandoned Twitter. And I was like, what is this? I don't know what it is. And they started posting when the episodes of Fear the Walking Dead came out. And I was like, okay. So I look up Fear the Walking Dead. I'm like, does this person work on Fear the Walking Dead?
Yeah.
And I found the person who posted on DeviantArt in like 2008. I found them working on Fear the Walking Dead.
No way.
And then through the IMDb, I emailed him and I was like, hey, man. No, I found him on Instagram. And I was like, hey, is this you? And I sent him the image. And he's like, where did you get this? And I was like, so I'm making a movie. Here's the script. Here's like this. No, here's the pitch deck and here's the script or whatever. Do you still have this? And he said, no, I don't have this. And I was like, can you make another one? And he's like, he read the script and he's like, I really like this. Yeah, I'll do it for you.
Oh my God.
He's like, how long? When are you gonna film? And I think we were gonna film a little sooner, but he's like, it's gonna take me like 2-3 weeks because I'm, he's doing Fear the Walking Dead, and I was like, I'll push it. I'll push the film date. I'll do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, okay. And so he did it pretty quickly. He charged me the materials essentially.
Oh my God! Wow.
He almost did it for free. I was like, hey, I can pay you more, and he's like, no, just make it so I don't lose money on this, and I'll do it.
Yeah. Well, what's his name? So, can we give him a shout out?
His name is Eric Zapata. He's amazing.
Okay.
He made us the mask and like the thing that she wears over herself, and then he shipped it to me, and I have video of it like unwrapping it and everything. It looks so good. It really elevated this entire thing. And then on the set, we were like, okay, she needs like a shawl, so we used to give her a shawl. And we shot. This is crazy. We shot when Spirit Halloween was closing. And I went and bought my costume for that next Halloween that day, the day right before we shot. It was a Ghostface costume, and I had it in the car. So when we were filming, we were like, we see the actor under the shawl. What do we do? And I think my wife was like, you have the Ghostface costume. Put the Ghostface costume under the Lechuza and then put everything on top of it. So underneath all the Lechuza is a black Ghostface like thing that goes all the way down. And you can just see like the black, which is so you don't see clothes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
the magic of filmmaking, honestly. Oh my God,
that's
so
how
cool.
we put together the little costume.
That is so cool. And again, yeah, the payoff is huge. It looks great. It looks amazing. And so, wow, I'm glad you were able to find Eric. Man, you really put in some detective work and and tracked him down. Oh my God. And thank goodness. Yeah, this is really cool. Okay, so you were talking earlier also about kind of like your thought process, like with your own experience and kind of putting it a little bit into the story of this movie. And so, with not only the short, but also the feature, you balance a lot of psychological horror with like the physical threat of this now, like fully manifested Lechuza. How do you approach building tension and fear through both your script and then also translating that to visual to on screen?
I think to answer that question, it's really important for you to understand
Mm-hmm.
that the first time I saw it cut together,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh my God, I made a terrible mistake. This is horrible."
What?
And the second time I saw it cut together, I was like, "Yeah, this is horrible. Maybe I should just stop."
No.
And because it wasn't there, the tension wasn't there. If you've seen it, you understand that it's less of like a mood, and it's more of like a ride.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like this leads to this, leads to this, and we just don't stop. The movie just keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after the mother dies, which is like the first scene. And that was on purpose. That was like from the beginning. I was like, oh, I want this to be a little ride. I pictured what it would be like to see this with people, and I was like, okay, in like a theater, and I was like, okay, people don't want to see this. People don't want to see this. I trimmed the fat out of the script a lot, but it still wasn't working. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong with it. And then I talked to some filmmaker friends that I know that have put more things together, specifically have adapted my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, just wait. There was like, just keep going. Just keep whittling it down and keep adding elements. It'll click. And I was like, it's not clicking. And they're like, just keep going. And I realized, and I only realized that after the fact, that it was sound editing. Sound editing was what was missing. Because we have a sound designer, and she designed all the sound for the house. Almost everything that you hear in Lechuza what is Foley or music or sound of some other kind. And I dropped it in and I hit play and I was like, oh, this is great.
Like, oh, now it makes sense.
Now it makes sense because before that, it wasn't raining. I don't know if you can tell, it's raining in the house. I think you almost know it subconsciously.
Yeah.
Because of the sound design, it's raining the entire time. There's thunder and there's it's hitting the wood, and like when they step, it creaks. It didn't creak in the first few drafts because the audio didn't pick that up. Or I guess there wasn't really creaks in the house, but she added creaks. She added breathing. She added music. Well, the music I got separately, but yeah, like her name is Camille Craig. She's a great sound designer. I'm using her for other stuff because I was like, oh, this is fantastic. So as much as I can write in, oh, this happens, like, oh, like this is scary, or like this scary thing happens, or oh, she walks down the hall in fear. I can write that down on a page and I can try to make you feel it in a screenplay. But execution is everything.
Yeah.
And even like visually, if I can execute that right, it doesn't feel, you don't feel it. It's the sound, especially in horror. It's the sound.
Yeah. Wow. But I mean, but also how important to like, and good on you also as like kind of, I guess you could say like the person in charge, like this is your project, right? To know like, okay, something is missing. What is it? And then not only that, but to feel this sense of almost dread and like, okay, I just need to like wash my hands of this because it's not working. But then going back to it and continuing to work on it until you do find that piece. And I will say, yes, watching the movie, the sound is, it is really good, and like you said, some of it is almost subconscious. Like when it's there, you're kind of not really, when it's done well, you're not really thinking of it. Like for example, the raining. It's like you know that it's raining, but if it wasn't there, if certain sounds weren't there, if certain design wasn't done, then it feels like it's like, well, what's off? But then again, when it's there, you're just like, your brain just kind of like subconsciously processes that. So yeah, no, that's, oh my God, yeah. I always try to get across to people how much work it is to do something creative, to do storytelling creatively. With Susto, it's a podcast, you know, so I'm audio only. But and so like it's cool that you bring it up, because without my sound, if I don't have music, if I don't have certain sound effects, it doesn't really play off. And so editing my episodes, I'll hear my story, I'm telling it, I'm editing it and everything. I'm like, God, it sounds so weird. I'm like, but I know it's going to come together in a second. And when I throw in little things, even just music, the music like kind of guides you, it pushes you through a story. It totally makes sense. It wraps it up in a nice bow, I'll say.
Yeah, with this new project that I'm filming this weekend, I've been really a huge proponent on something that is going to make a lot of like auteurs, I guess, upset, or like filmmakers really upset. But I've always been a proponent of your job as a director or as a filmmaker, I guess, is to be the dumbest person in the room, which sounds weird, but it is. Like you need to surround yourself with people who are really good at their job, like so good at their job that you don't need to do it. Because if you do it, you didn't study this. It's going to be bad. Like you don't know how to sound design. You don't know. I don't know some. I don't know lenses. Like I know my lenses as like a director knows his lenses, but I don't know cameras. So you need to find the best people for the job. Surround yourself with them, and you're the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah,
you're just like, oh, I want it to look scary. Can you make it look scary? And they're like, yeah, okay, I'll make it look scary.
Yeah,
stuff like that. And like I wrote this, so like I know what I want, but I don't really know how to get there. So you know better than me how to get there. So we need to figure it out as like a group a little bit.
Yeah. And
so this has been a lot better to try that sort of style of making movies.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate group project, and just kind of putting that trust in other people, and then again, and vice versa, having them put their trust in you, right? That you're steering this thing that they're working on, that they're putting time into, in the right direction.
Yeah.
And so, like, speaking of this genre and like this kind of work and all the things that go in together, or all the things that go into making a horror movie happen, what do you think makes the genre such a powerful vehicle for exploring emotional and societal issues? I think many people might take horror at face value and say, oh, it's just a scary movie. But I think more than ever, people are discovering that horror is so much more than just scary movies. There are stories about so many different topics. How would you kind of, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think horror is a very easy element to attach metaphor to. Monsters are really easy to attach metaphor to. People always speak about this sort of like elevated horror, which horror has always been elevated. There's always been The Thing. There's always been Suspiria. There's always been more to these to horror. Just if you were willing to look. And so like there's I think it's the best genre to explore the imperfections of people and the emotions of people through like a safe lens. So I really like the idea of like figuring out what you're actually afraid of and grafting that onto a monster. And maybe someone's already done it, and watch it and see what you like about it, what works about it, what you would do better about it, like from it, and then try to work with that. It definitely helps. Like you said, it's great to attach metaphor to, and then when you toss in like something that already has kind of a history, like a Lechuza, for example, I can imagine it's fun to kind of play around with what the meaning is, or how can you use that monster, so to speak, as a vehicle to kind of deliver that message. What do you hope that audiences take away from watching Lechuza, especially people that are going through something similar with their families, like this idea of loss? Yeah, I hope audiences take away the importance of family, and not just the family that you were assigned,
Hmm.
and the importance of getting through your grief and actually processing your grief. But other than that, I want them to go searching for more Latino folklore. I want them to understand that there's more Latin folklore out there. It's weird, it's fun, it's sad, and it's interesting. And I want them to at least like have that understanding that, oh, maybe there's more stuff that I haven't heard of from Latino countries, and then go looking for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like speaking about that, how do you see the role of cultural identity shaping modern horror? I think it's definitely it is already happening. So yeah, how do you kind of see that role playing out, not only currently, but maybe for the future?
I think there's something interesting about people taking um this. I've always loved folk horror, but folk horror has always been almost like pigeonholed by this sort of like weird Anglo stories. It's
Mhm.
always been like Midsummer, or um that other thing that people associate Midsummer with. I forgot what it was.
Mhm.
um and it's always been sort of that, or like Lamb, or even like older than that I can't remember. But like I think we should end up taking more like from your hometown, or from your city, or from your country, or from your people. And the idea of doing that, and like almost taking back the fear that you felt and
Mm.
that your family felt, and turning it into something that you can use, as something you can expel your demons from with, I think is really powerful. And I think people are understanding the power of that now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and like you said, taking it down to like the community level, so many of these stories are told across different cultures, and they vary from culture to culture, from continent to continent, from state to city to city to neighborhood to neighborhood. These stories can get really specific depending on who is telling them. And so I think, like, yeah, it's important to recognize the cultural identities in some of these stories, because they bring extremely unique perspectives to the storytelling that ends up happening. So yeah, I like that idea. What stories do you hope to tell in the future? I know that you said you have projects coming up, but what kinds of stories are you hoping to tell?
Well, I really want to keep delving into folklore, and I
Mhm.
really want to keep delving into, I guess, the like my history and my country and my people. And I think that that's where I'm needed right now, and I think that's where I can get the most of my ideas out.
Mhm.
So the thing that I'm going to shoot this weekend, it's called With Your Life. It's another proof of concept short where I have the feature. It's a generational slasher that's a metaphor for the generational trauma that comes from being in an abusive marriage.
Mm.
And I took the first scene of that, which is essentially this woman escaping a ranch in Mexico, a family ranch in Mexico, where she's trying to escape her abusive husband and her abusive husband's family, who lives on the ranch. And
Mm.
she's sneaking out in the middle of the night, and she has to take a child with her. And it's like the first scene of like the Invisible Man remake, but with
Mhm.
a baby, and it's
Oh,
a
wow.
slasher movie. And so we're doing that, and I want to it's something that, as we're doing it, I was like, I want to get this under 5 minutes. I want to
Yeah.
get this, I want to get in and get out. And I had this in it in my head for a while, and one of the actresses from Lechuza, Jude Salazar, she messaged me earlier this year and was like, hey, I want to make something, I want to be the star of something, like a short, can you pitch me ideas? And this is the idea that she gravitated toward the most.
Oh, wow.
And so she's like, I can fund this. Let's go. And so we just started working on it. So
Oh
yeah,
my God.
hopefully it's gonna turn out really good. I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Um and like, as for like folklore, I'm doing like poems about the poem book that I have. I haven't announced or anything yet, but it's called Mad Monsters.
Mhm.
And it's poems from the perspective of monsters. and
Oh.
drawing metaphors from that and everything. So I think it's gonna be fun. But as far as folklore, I have really wanted for a while to do like a Goosebumps series,
Hmm.
and I have the first book written, but it's not very good because I'm not really a prose writer. So
Uh-huh.
I need to keep rewriting, need to keep getting notes on it and stuff. But it's I for like years and years and years, I was trying to crack what the Chupacabra is about
Hmm.
and why it's scary and why it's endured as a folktale for so long.
Hmm.
And I think I figured out that it's because it. Okay, I'm gonna pitch you a Chupacabra story real quick.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
um, so back in the day and even now, a lot of pueblos exist on their own. They are fully functioning societies in and of themselves, which is hard for us as Americans to imagine, right? It's hard for us to imagine not getting shipments from other places or
Mhm.
like eating an avocado that was made in a like country entirely. But there's whole little pueblos, little cities that exist in themselves. They have a farm, they have a hospital, they have a school, and then that's all they need
Mhm.
to continue living. And that even to this day they still do that. But back in the day it was way more, and it was way more widespread. So if for some reason you had a bad crop day, your people in your city, in your pueblo, in your city, they ate less that year.
Yeah.
Or a bad crop year, they ate less that year. You couldn't import food from another city; they needed it.
Mhm.
So the chupacabra goes around and attacks your livestock, as in it attacks your food source. It attacks the lifeblood of a city. And that's the fear. It's a story about isolation. You're
Mhm.
isolated from everyone else, and then there's a thing that's attacking your life, your heart, and you either need to kill it or leave.
Yeah.
Those are your options. And so the Goosebumps book that I have, it's about this kid whose parents passed away in a car accident, and he has to go live with his grandma and grandpa in Mexico. And he's American, he's Mexican American. He doesn't know Spanish, so he goes and he has to like sort of assimilate into this culture that he doesn't understand. And he makes a friend and everything, and together they realize that there's this mystery happening in the city, in the pueblo, and it's that the chupacabra is starting to eat the livestock, and they have to figure out what it is and how to get rid of it before the whole city starts collapsing.
Yeah.
And it
Oh
already
my
kind
god.
of started. So like he's heard tales of like, oh, like his mother comes from this really great place, and there's like music and there's food and there's a festival. But when he gets there, it's a dying town. It's
Wow.
rotting, and he doesn't
Yeah.
know why, and he doesn't understand. And it's because they're losing their food.
Wow. That's such a good idea. I like that. I like that a lot. I this kind of like it's giving me like agricultural thriller, which
Yes.
I'm not sure is something I've really seen before, right? Like that's and yeah, that's truly terrifying is a community being cut off from their resources that they need to literally live. Um yeah, that I think that is such a you don't need it, but Susto stamp of approval. I think that is such a cool idea, and
It's
I can't
good,
wait to see
but
it.
if you read the book, it's not that good. It doesn't come off as good as my pitch. So I just need to keep going. Maybe I should just write a movie. I don't
Honestly,
know.
yeah, I would. Uh, it would be the reverse of like the book to movie kind of pipeline. You can do movie to book, really. Yeah. So, have you had any of your own personal encounters with the paranormal?
Yeah. I have when I was when I was younger, I went to I grew up in Texas. Well,
Hmm.
I grew up in like going between Texas and like New York.
Hmm.
But I went to a camp once called Camp Flaming Arrow. This is like the only paranormal experience I think I have that I can remember very clearly.
Hmm.
When I was younger, but when I was like a baby, my mom was like said that my room was haunted when I was like just getting back from the hospital and everything because I was a
Hmm.
preemie, and my grandma said that like a lot of things were going after me when I was a preemie because I was
Oh my
like
god.
very like susceptible
Yeah.
to things. So like yeah, like I don't remember all that stuff, but I
Yeah.
do remember I wasn't going to Camp Flamingo, and there was the which is like just a regular camp that you go to do like canoe and archery, and you spend the night. It's like all that stuff. My dad was one of the camp counselors a little bit, and he not counselors. That's the wrong word for it. I guess chaperones.
Like a chaperone, yeah.
Yeah, he was a chaperone, and when one of the nights that we were there, it was raining a lot. And so if you ever go to Camp Flamingo, there's like there's like a main camp and like a girls' dormitory sort of. Then there's like a river that doesn't have any water. It's like an empty basin.
Mm.
And then there's like the boys' camp, and I don't know why we're so separated. There's like the boys' dormitory, but the boys' dormitory has like a toilet and a sink, but it doesn't have like a kitchen or like running water to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And so nobody wanted to drink from the toilet. So everyone was getting thirsty, and it was at night and it was raining. And so my dad had to like go and get water, and he couldn't send one of us because we would have to like go down the river basin. It's a little like dangerous. So he's like, okay. And like the lights went out or something, and no one had any backup flashlights or anything.
Oh my God.
So he had to go and get water for us and like flashlights and stuff. And he's like, don't open the door for anybody. And he left. And then he left to go get water, flashlights, and like someone to like work on the generator, because I think the generator was going out.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a knock on the door, and there was somebody that was going to work on the generator. And they said that they were going to work on the generator, and they kept knocking and knocking, and we were like, yeah, but my dad isn't back. We shouldn't open the door. And they were like, yeah, but it's a generator guy. He's sitting in the storm. We should open the door. And so the kids opened the door. Like, I told them not to, but they opened the door. And then this guy just walked in and went to the basement. And then he was just like knocking on things. It sounded like a hammer just knocking on like the walls.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, this is like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy? And it was just, he was there for like maybe not even like 10 minutes. And then my dad came back with the guy to fix the generator. And then he was like, and then we were like, oh, there's already someone down there. My dad was like, you guys open the door? And we were like, yeah, he said that he was going to fix the generator. We were in the middle of nowhere. Camp Flamingo was in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my God.
And then he was like, what the fuck? And they went down there, and there was no one down there.
Stop. Oh my God.
And then, but there's no way out. There's just one way in. There's no other way to get out of the basement. It's just 4 walls.
Ew. And all of you saw him. The group of you saw him.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So then.
That's it.
That's it. Just like no trace of him.
Like,
Nobody showed up later. Like
I still tell my dad, I'm like, no, there was a dude. Like we didn't make it up to you. Like somebody came in, and they were wet from the outside, and then they just went downstairs and started banging on the walls, and they never left.
My God. And you all stayed there that night? You slept there?
Like, my dad thought we made it up. I don't think I went to sleep, but
oh my God. Oh, it's not the nastiest like chill run up my spine. That is horrifying. I think it's worse when other people see what you saw. So the fact that a group of you saw this man, this stranger, walk in, go down there, you all heard him making noise, and then the adults were like, no, you're making it up, go to bed. Oh my God. That's
I never saw his face.
Oh my God.
So
did he have
I never
a face?
I don't know, like he would like turn, he like turned away. You know how some people like turn away from the light a little bit?
Yeah. Ew.
It was like that. Yeah, my dad has a lot of stories. My dad has so many stories.
Oh my God. That is thoroughly unsettling. Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, so we've reached the end of our time with the public episode, but If you are a best ghoul friend, you have access to the video version of this episode, along with some bonus content that we are about to jump into. So, for those of you listening, not on Patreon, or if you're not a best ghoul friend on Patreon, thank you so much for being here. Miguel, can you please tell everyone where they can follow you and your work and where they can watch Lechuza?
Sure. You can follow me at Miguel Martinez on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to watch Lechuza, you can watch Lechuza at lechuzafilm.com. You could also follow Lechuza at LechuzaFilm on Instagram.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here and for scaring the shit out of me. I really appreciate that. Again, if you're a best ghoul friend, stick around for that bonus content. If not, we will see you later. Bye. Welcome back, ghoul friends. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Miguel and myself, we had such a fun conversation. Again, follow him on social media. Check out his short film, Lechuza. I'm so excited to see where the future takes him, where he goes, what he produces. He has so many cool ideas. That agricultural thriller, it just makes sense, right? When he said it, I thought, yes, how was especially with the agricultural industry. I'm not going to get into it. That's a whole other episode. You already know that. But again, thank you so much for being here. Once more, the easiest way to support the show is by engaging with it wherever you are listening, rating, reviewing, subscribing, following, sharing it, telling your ghoul friends all about Susto. Spread the unholy word about Susto. How about that? With that being said, huge shout out to this episode's patrons. Thank you so much for your support. It means, as always, the underworld to me. And you are Liza, Sadie, Rachel, Alejandra, Luther, April, Mario, Eva, Dee, Josette, Sam, Mandy, Jules, Lori, Jeannie, Desiree, Anna, Ashes, Neresa, Rachel, Azucena, Rios, Marlene, Chata, Lainey, Desiree, Serenai Flamenca, Belinda, Ricardo, Archer, Sarah, Anastasia, Vanessa, Maritza, and Nieves. Thank you all so much from the bottom of the deep, dark well where my heart and soul are supposed to be, but aren't. It really means so much to me. I will talk to you in the next episode, and until then, no te asustes. Bye.